What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Friday, October 27th, 2023, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now, it is 10:35 a.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in this morning. So, late last night, the U.S. conducted airstrikes on Iranian militias and the IRGC, which is the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. And so this is the first time that the US has actually physically gotten involved during this whole situation the last 2.5 weeks with Israel and Hamas. So let me just read to you this official statement coming from the U.S. Department of Defense. And this was released late last night. This is an official statement from Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary. Today, at President Biden's direction, U.S. military forces conducted self-defense strikes on two facilities in eastern Syria used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and affiliated groups. These precision self-defense strikes are a response to a series of ongoing and mostly unsuccessful attacks against U.S. personnel in Iraq and Syria by Iranian-backed militia groups that began on October 17th. As a result of these attacks, one U.S. citizen contractor died from a cardiac incident while sheltering in place. 21 U.S. personnel suffered from minor injuries, but all have since returned to duty. The president has no higher priority than the safety of U.S. personnel, and he directed today's action to make clear that the United States will not tolerate such attacks and will defend itself, its personnel, and its interests. Okay, so this was directed by Biden, okay? And they say that 21 U.S. personnel suffered from minor injuries, but from what we heard 2 days ago, 19 of them had TBI, traumatic brain injury. So I'm not sure if I believe the minor injury thing here, but one contractor died from a cardiac incident. So this is huge news, guys. Okay, they struck two facilities in eastern Syria used by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. That's basically a component of the Iranian military, guys, okay? The United States does not seek conflict and has no intention nor desire to engage in further hostilities, but these Iranian-backed attacks against U.S. forces are unacceptable and must stop. Iran wants to hide its hand and deny its role in these attacks against our forces. We will not let them. If attacks by Iran's proxies against U.S. forces continue, we will not hesitate to take further necessary measures to protect our people. So this is huge, guys, okay? This is the first time that the U.S. has actually gotten involved in this whole situation, and I don't think it's the last time, okay? They clearly say here, we will not hesitate to take further necessary measures to protect our people if attacks by Iran's proxies against U.S. forces continue, which they will, and they did last night. And here we have a picture coming from the Institute for the Study of War, and it shows all the bases in the last 2 weeks that have been targeted by jihadists and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. And it seems like the Al-Assad Air Base is getting hit the most. And there's been a total of over 20 attacks so far. Okay, so that's a lot. And we do know that the U.S. Army in Iraq was doing live fire drills recently, yesterday. Okay, they were doing live fire drills. All right, so they're preparing for the worst. And late last night, there was some kind of a nuclear war exercise off the coast of California again. We had one like 3 days ago, and we had another one late last night. There were probably like 2 dozen aerial refuelers and AWACS planes flying off the coast of San Diego and San Francisco. So our military is preparing for a worst case scenario. Here's another screenshot showing all of these aerial refuelers. And there were like several Pegasus aerial refuelers that took off from Travis Air Force Base at the same time. They did what's known as an elephant walk. They all took off at the same time. And guys, these planes are used to refuel our bombers and fighter jets. Okay, that's what these planes do. So they're preparing for a worst case scenario. Okay, if they have to send these planes to the Middle East to refuel fighter jets that are conducting round the clock sorties over Iran and Syria and Lebanon. Okay, this is what it's for. Okay, they're making sure that their tankers are working, because they're going to need a lot of tankers if they do some kind of massive attack on Iran and Syria and Lebanon and all these countries that are, helping Hamas and attacking Israel and attacking U.S. forces. They're going to need a lot of tankers, a lot of aerial refuelers. So, in my opinion, this is not just preparations for nuclear war, but also preparations for some kind of massive aerial campaign in the Middle East, where they're going to need a lot of aerial refuelers to constantly refuel all the jets and everything else. Okay. And we also had the last day of NATO's Steadfast Noon tactical nuclear weapons exercise yesterday. And so US F-15Es, F-16s, and German Tornadoes were practicing nuclear weapons delivery and were operating out of Aviano Air Base. Okay, so NATO's doing tactical nuclear weapons exercises. The US is doing a lot of exercises. Okay, Russia just recently tested their nuclear triad 2 days ago. They fired ICBMs from all of their delivery systems. Okay, so guys, the major nuclear powers are getting ready for a showdown. Okay, China has moved 6 warships, guided missile warships, into the Middle East off the coast of Oman. And they recently released a statement saying that they support Iran's sovereignty and territorial integrity. So what does that mean? That means if the U.S. and Israel try to launch a preemptive strike on Iran, then China's going to defend Iran, okay? And Russia's going to do the same thing. All right, so this could easily spiral out of control, guys. Okay, make sure you're getting prepared as best as possible. And last night, some kind of object, either a missile or a drone, crashed in Egyptian territory, and it landed near a hospital, and apparently 5 people were injured. And shortly after that happened, Egypt put out a statement saying that they reserved the right to respond to anyone found responsible. And then just a few hours later, Egyptian media reported that an unknown object fell near the Nuweiba power station in South Sinai. So 2 objects crashed in Egypt last night, one near a power station, one near an administrative building near a hospital, both in the Sinai Peninsula. The Egyptian military later said that the first incident was caused by some kind of an unidentified drone that crashed. And then a spokesman for the Israeli army said that last night Israeli Air Force fighters were dispatched to the Red Sea to deal with a threat that came from the Red Sea. So what that is, we don't know. Maybe they were Houthi rebels. That's the theory, that the Houthi rebels were firing missiles or drones towards Israel. That's what the theory is, that these were drones launched from Yemen by the Houthis towards Israel, and they veered off course and crashed into Egypt, okay? Iranian militias claimed responsibility for last night's attack on the Al Omar military base of the U.S. Army in the Deir ez-Zor part of eastern Syria, saying they launched 10 missiles. And apparently there were heavy casualties among U.S. troops and a lot of financial losses. And this was right around the time that the U.S. launched those 2 airstrikes, or they struck those 2 facilities. So things are really heating up, guys. They're going after U.S. bases now, a lot more. Okay. In Iran, the large-scale military exercises that were planned 2 days ago have already begun, and reportedly they involve assault and missile units. And French President Emmanuel Macron said the war in the Middle East will continue, tensions will escalate, and we may face the risk of the region igniting, and this will have adverse results. Okay, so very ominous words there from Emmanuel Macron. And Biden warned China not to mess with the Philippines during a joint press conference at the White House with the Australian Prime Minister. He said the United States defense agreement with the Philippines is ironclad, and any attack on the Filipino aircraft, vessels, or armed forces will invoke our mutual defense treaty with the Philippines. And at one point yesterday, the USS Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group was only about 150 nautical miles away from China's Shandong aircraft carrier in the South China Sea. So tensions with China are escalating. So just wanted to give you guys this quick update. The U.S. struck 2 targets in eastern Syria yesterday, 2 facilities. And this is just the beginning, guys. Okay, people are getting so worked up, and this is nothing. We haven't even seen the main event yet. This is like just a warm up. Okay, wait until the real SHTF occurs. Okay, that's when things are really going to get crazy. And when that happens, as long as we have internet and electricity, I will be going live 24/7 to cover this war, because this is historic, guys. Okay, this is going to be a historic war, one that we haven't seen in our lifetimes, one we haven't seen in the Middle East ever. Okay, in the last 100 years, this is going to be bigger than the 3-day war or the 6-day war. I forget what that was called. Bigger than the Yom Kippur War. Okay, this is huge. This is going to be historic. So get prepared. So I'll be back later on this afternoon with another update. Make sure you hit the bell icon so you get notified when I upload these videos and when I go live. Other than that, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.